Slide 16 provides an overview of top VAT risks with respect to incoming invoices. In practice, many of the incoming invoices are still processed manually. AP clerks, who are not VAT experts, have to select the correct tax codes and thus determine the VAT treatment and reporting. In order to manage this process, detective controls should be executed to check whether this is done correctly. This is labor intensive and poses a major area for VAT errors. It will therefore always be an area of investigation during a tax audit. The AP clerk often fully relies on the purchase order and might be unaware that this purchase order might no longer reflect the actual situation. For example, if the vendor decides to execute the transaction differently from what had been initially agreed upon. The vendor decides to deliver from another country, as locally the goods were not in stock. Slide 21 shows a sample of a normative control framework that can be used as a yardstick. To continue the risk area of incoming invoices, we show you here a benchmark example of a normative AP process. The control activity, the test of control, and the frequency are important for an effective and efficient implementation and shows how an organization is in control. As said, the current as-is process can be measured against, and the outcome results in gaps. A sound decision can be taken whether or not to close. Slide 14 shows an example of risks of setting up a shared service center with a focus on complexity. Accounts payable is normally outsourced to such a center, and the VAT handling of incoming invoices is a top VAT risk area. Often the VAT determination of such invoices is done by AP clerks that lack proper VAT knowledge. Change in roles and responsibilities can have a huge impact, and it is not always easy to explain this to senior management. This and the next slide explain the impact of such outsourcing using the Business Control Framework method to its full potential. This slide explains the complexity as element of determining inherent risks, as explained earlier in detail when discussing scoping of VAT risks. Slide 15 shows an example of risks of setting up a shared service center with a focus on change. This slide explains change as element of determining inherent risks. Important non-routine transaction areas are merger and acquisition, outsourcing, or centralization of business models. But change can also be a new supply chain or updated VAT legislation by which an update of VAT instructions is needed or new processes and controls have to be set up.